going on, everybody? Welcome to a weeknight edition of Poolside Cigar Reviews with Kirk. As you can see, we are not by the pool, and that is because instead of smoking a cigar tonight, I am doing probably the other taste-related hobby that I enjoy just as much as cigars, and that is Scotch. So the subject of tonight's update are 3 Scotches that you should have in your cabinet if you're trying to develop your palate and become a Scotch drinker. So here we are, and I'll just slide these guys over. These are the 3 Scotches I think you should have, and in this order, I recommend Highland Park 12 year. This is a Highland single malt. You can pick this up for, depending on what state you live in, I would say probably between $40 and $50 a bottle against a 12-year-old Highland. So it's got a little bit of the smoky peat in it. It's got a little bit of the sherry influence. It's got a little bit of everything. This is a very well balanced, very well-rounded single malt Scotch. And while I would recommend this if you've never tried single malt, this would be my recommendation for your very first single malt. That doesn't mean that it's a beginner's single malt. If I had to choose one single malt to have for the rest of my life, this would be it, because this is a mainstay in my cabinet. You know, a lot like cigars or craft beer, I'm not a big repeat guy. You know, there's a whole world out there, and I want to experience it all, so I'm not really big on buying the same stuff over and over again. However, actually all 3 of these Scotches are always in my Scotch cabinet. When I run out of a bottle of Highland Park, I go to the store and I buy another bottle of Highland Park. And usually I'm a couple deep, at least, in all these. Because I don't want to run out. So, first up, Highland Park 12 years single malt. Fantastic Scotch, can't go wrong. My number 2 recommendation, and probably it's a rival with the Highland Park as far as, this is a very close second as far as all-time favorite for single malt Scotches. And this is the Aberlour Abuna. This is a cask strength, Speyside single malt. This has it's just a sherry bomb. A lot of times, Scotch whiskeys are barreled and stored, or matured is the proper word, in oak casks. And they're generally of 2 types. It's either a refill bourbon cask, generally from American bourbon, or it's an Oloroso sherry cask, usually from Spanish oak. So this one it's not a bourbon cask. This is a sherry cask, and you can see in the color, there's a lot of sherry influence in here, and you can definitely taste it. It's not peaty, not smoky. If you want something that's a little bit sweeter, and it's just freaking awesome. This is cask strength. You know, this bottle is 59.6%, and this is, what is this? This is batch number 37. So I don't know what batch they're on now, but this is a fantastic single malt. The other, if you are wanting to learn or experience or expand your palate, Ardbeg 10 is a great place to start for Islay Scotches. So again, these are all single malts. This is from the island of Islay. This is off the west coast of Scotland, and Islay is known for its peated single malts. So what they do when they malt their barley, barley, we could talk about this all night, but basically they grow barley, they harvest it, it's kind of dry, it's dormant, and they wet it down, and they kind of let it sprout a little bit, and that's what you would call malted barley, because it's slightly sprouted, and what that does is it activates the sugars. What they do on Islay to dry out and stop that growth is they dry this out by burning peat, or like peat moss, almost like earth. It's about halfway between dirt and coal. You can think of compacted organic material that's like halfway to coal, but it's still kind of dirt-like. That's peat, and it has kind of a medicinal flavor, and they burn it, so it's got a smoky flavor. So this is very peaty. I mean, all the Islay whiskeys, not all, but most of the Islay whiskeys have a very strong peat profile. But I believe this is finished in American bourbon cask, so it has that vanilla oak honey bourbon type flavor to it as well. It's a little bit more of a challenging Scotch. So these are my These are my top 3 in this order: Highland Park, Aberlour, Ardbeg 10. That said, let's go ahead and pour a bottle, or a dram rather. This is a Glencairn glass. This is I think it's a fairly recent glass style or glassware style from Scotland. It's like halfway between a nosing glass and a snifter. It's got a nice heavy base, so it's not super easy to tip over like a nosing glass. Obviously you could tip it over if you wanted to, but it's pretty sturdy. And that's nice. When you drink Scotch, in general, I mean, drink it however you like it, but my advice is get something that's going to have a narrow top. You know, if you don't have a Glencairn glass, use a wine glass. Use something that's going to kind of funnel the aroma to your nose, because I mean that's how you get a lot of the flavors. Just like with cigars, you know, with the retrohale or just the room note, you get a lot of the flavors from the smell. I recommend room temperature. You chill this stuff down, you kill a lot of the flavor. Again, drink it how you like it. These are only my opinions. But in my opinion, to get the most flavor out of a glass of Scotch, you are going to drink it at room temperature. One thing I like to do, and just to appreciate, I mean, you can obviously see the color. It's just a nice amber, like a deep honey amber. But it's to give it a swirl around the rim of the glass, and you can see there's a line that shows up. You probably can't see it on the camera, but there is a line where that spirit meets the glass, and it begins to beat up and form tears. And you know, the way that I was taught and what I learned, and I think it holds pretty true from my experience, but you know, who can be 100% on this, but from what I learned in my experience is the smaller the tears means the higher the alcohol content. And then the more slowly they beat up and the more slowly they run down the glass, basically the more oil and the more flavors there are in there. You know, it's got a little bit higher viscosity, I think. Now, as I said before, oh, that smells fantastic. As I said before, this is 59.6% alcohol. So for those of you in America, that's 120 proof. This is strong stuff. If you try to drink this straight, which you can, you get some of the flavor, but honestly, what I really get is a big blast of burning alcohol on my tongue with a little bit of flavor in the periphery. A nice finish still. You still get a good finish, but a definite burn in the throat and chest. So I like to enjoy my Scotch with a little bit of water in it. And I'm probably going to do about 2 teaspoons for this much Scotch. And then I'll taste it. If it needs more water, I'll add more. And just a good swirl. And if you put water in your Scotch, if it's good Scotch, you'll see the water interacting with the oil, and it's kind of wavy, almost like heat coming off the road on a hot day. And that's just the water interacting with the oil. I've also heard the analogy that water is to Scotch as oxygen is to wine. You know, you want to aerate your wine when you open it up so it's not so closed off, so your wine opens. Same thing with Scotch. A little water will really open up the flavors, give you a lot more. Oh, and you can smell it right away too. You really get the cask influence. You can really smell the wood and the sherry. Beautiful. That's delicious. It actually needs just a little more water. And always add more as you go, because you can also over dilute a Scotch, and you don't want to do that either. The other thing that I'd recommend to enjoy a glass of Scotch, you need to take your time. Just like with a cigar that you don't want to overheat, you need to take your time with a glass of Scotch, because it will open up. Especially if it's a new bottle. Now this bottle's been open for a little while. I've been enjoying it, as you can see. It will open up. So drink very slowly. You know what? Honestly, not a bad idea to pour a glass of Scotch. Let it sit for a couple minutes. Don't even touch it, just let it sit. Put water in it, let it sit. You know, I can sit and sip on a glass of scotch like this for, half an hour, 40 minutes, just leaving it there. And, I also just like to nose it. I can sit there, I can read a book and just nose it as I take a sip, because really, the way that I look at it, I wouldn't say, oh, I drink scotch. I look at it like I do a cigar. I'm appreciating this. I'm not, I am physically drinking it, but I'm not treating it as a beverage. It's more, it's something you appreciate. It's not, I don't know how to verbalize this, but it's just not something you throw back. It's something that you really take your time with and appreciate. It's not stuff you want to get drunk off of or go party or throw back a lot of these. This stuff it's really special. It's almost like putting on cologne. You appreciate a couple squirts of cologne. You don't want to bathe yourself in cologne. You'll smell like shit. So the same thing with this. Treat it like cologne. Less is more, but use less, but buy better. That's what I'm saying. Get good scotch, drink less. That smells great. So that's kind of a good introductory lesson on scotch, at least from my point of view. I would recommend check out Ralphie's stuff on YouTube. It's a gentleman named Ralphie Mitchell from Scotland. I've been watching his videos for about really 4 years maybe. It's been a long time that I've been watching his videos, and I've honestly learned everything that you heard tonight. I learned from Ralphie Mitchell, and even these recommendations I think I got from Ralphie, validated of course by experience. So not alcoholic, but I drink a lot of scotch. And I want to let you know, if you stuck around for the end, thank you very much. This weekend I'm going to be reviewing the Ashton VSG Bellicoso. I don't know the dimensions on this. It looks like maybe a 5.5 by 52 with a Bellicoso head. So this is going to be checking out, is the Ashton VSG. So stick around. I hope to see you on Saturday. And grab an Ashton VSG. These are widely available. There's no reason you can't find one. If you've never had one, I'll tell you, I have had a lot of these. It's a cigar you should have. So whether you smoke it with me on Saturday or not, go out and buy an Ashton VSG, because you should. They're very popular. You need to have an opinion on the Ashton VSG. So thank you very much, guys, for sticking around. Thank you very much, actually, to Catfish Hunter. He actually recommended that I do a Scotch review. So hopefully, Catfish Hunter, hopefully this was what you were looking for. If not, let me know, and I'll try to fulfill whatever you're looking for, whatever that is. I don't know. Anyway, I'm rambling now. Thanks a lot for stopping by, guys. Sorry I'm not by the pool, but I didn't want to lug all the scotch outside, and I just didn't want to. So have a great night. Thank you very much for stopping by. As always, even though I'm not near one, make sure you keep your feet in the pool, a drink in your hand, and a cigar in your mouth. Have a great week, everybody.